Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Kim Havens. I am the event manager here at An Unlikely Story in Plainville, Massachusetts, and I am delighted to be with you for the Boston.com book group for September. Author today is Phillippi Ryan, and we're going to discuss her two books, Her Perfect Life and The First to Lie. Phillippi Ryan is the USA Today best-selling author of 13 novels of suspense. She has also won multiple prestigious awards for her crime fiction, including 5 Agathas, 4 Anthonys, and the coveted Mary Higgins Clark Award. She's also the on-air investigative reporter for Boston's WHDH TV and has won 37 Emmys, 14 Edward R. Murrow Awards, and dozens of other honors for her groundbreaking journalism. National book reviews have called Hank a master at crafting suspenseful mysteries and a superb and gifted storyteller. Hank's novels have been named Best Thrillers of the Year by Library Journal, New York Post, BookBub, Pop Sugar, Real Simple Magazine, and many others. Her 2020 thriller is The First to Lie. It garnered a starred review from Publishers Weekly and is a nominee for the Anthony Award for Best Novel and the iconic Mary Higgins Clark Award. Of course it is. Her newest book is Her Perfect Life, a chilling psychological standalone about fame, family, and revenge. It received starred reviews from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly, which called it a superlative thriller. And I just heard some fantastic news that Her Perfect Life has gone into the second printing. So you're definitely going to want to make sure to get it while you get your first edition. So I would like to welcome Hank. Oh, there you are, Hank. Oh my
That's
gosh.
so nice. Kim,
It's
it's
so
so
good to
nice to
see
see you. I
you.
miss you so much. And I wish I could come to an unlikely story and see you all, but this is the second best.
It is. It's so good to see your face. So first of all, I have to
Well,
thank
first of
you,
all,
Hank.
let's talk about your breaking news that you just
Yes.
revealed that Her Perfect
Yes.
Life went into a second printing. Oh, I love this. I'm going to take a photo of this.
Yes.
Um,
Excellent.
that is the best news. But it does mean that, exactly as you said, that the first editions are almost gone. So
Yes.
just saying.
Yes. We have first editions here at the bookstore. This is just great. So first of all, okay, so second of all, after we have that, um, I would just like to thank you, Hank, for always being there to support independent bookstores. You are such a champion for Brookline Booksmith and Porter Square Books, and of course, An Unlikely Story. So I'm not sure if you viewers know this, but Hank actually also participated in a Bink charity event that we had here at the store where we played a version of Jeopardy! We had the game show cabinets, and it was authors versus booksellers versus sales reps, and it was a great time.
I
So
really think the Venn diagram of readers and Jeopardy lovers is just a concentric circles, right? Isn't it? Everybody loves Jeopardy,
it
and we were
is.
all. It was hilarious. I hope when real times are back, we can do that again. It was one of the most fun nights I have ever had. We got pretty competitive.
Yeah, with the pushing the button, and
It
it
was
was
great, 100% great.
it was very fun.
And as
So
for
thank you for
independent bookstores,
yeah,
thank you for that. You know, we depended on independent bookstores in the before times, and I
before
really
times.
think that it's all of our responsibility to make sure that you all are still there for us when this time is over. So I enthusiastically urge everyone to buy
Yes.
books from your local independent bookseller. It's part of our community and part of our lives,
Right.
and we cannot live without you. So thank you
No.
for everything
I
you do.
think people finally kind of got it during the pandemic, I think. The value of independent bookstores and not just ordering their books based on an algorithm. So
And I love how you all pivoted. I mean,
yeah,
there was a moment when I'm sure that you must have felt, as we all did in the pandemic, no matter what we were doing, that the rug got pulled out from under you and your whole concept of how you did business had to change. And wow, did you just hop on that?
it
So
did.
congratulations to you all for being so
Thank
nimble.
you. It was a lot of fun, I have to say. And here we are. I don't think virtual events are going to go away anytime soon. And it is pretty fun looking at the map afterwards of the people joining us from
I
all
would
over
love
the
to see, I would
country.
love to have people put in the Q&A function or wherever you can put it, who you are and where you're
Yes.
from at least. So we can look at that later and welcome you all because Kim and I can't see the chat that you're leaving if you're leaving chat or it's closed. So we'd love to know who you are and thank you so much
Yes.
and where you are and thank you so much for coming.
Yes, this is awesome. And I have missed a book group. I haven't had a book group in a long time. So, we're here to discuss two of your novels, The First to Lie and Her Perfect Life. Both books feature reporters, but somehow in Her Perfect Life with Lily, it feels more intimate. And I know you started Her Perfect Life, but then it changed. Can you talk a little bit about that, Hank?
Well, it's interesting. This is the cover of Her Perfect Life. Look how nice that is.
It's
It's so
beautiful.
gorgeous. And the woman on the cover is so enigmatic and so mysterious. And yes, I know that my editor said that Her Perfect Life was my most personal book of all. And I didn't think that when I was writing it, but I do see that now. It's not a story about me in any way, it's a
No.
story about Lily Atwood, a really famous television reporter who is so perfect that her fans have dubbed her hashtag perfect Lily. They've given her a hashtag. And everybody knows who she is. And that may be her biggest problem. She has fame, she has fortune, she has Emmys, she's the single mom to an adorable 7-year-old girl, but she also has a secret. And she begins to worry that someone wants to tell this big, dark, ugly, career and life ruining secret. But how do you keep a secret when you're always in the spotlight? And maybe the spotlight is the most dangerous place of all. And I've been a television reporter for 40 years. So, actually, 43 years, if you can believe that. And so I understand the spotlight, and that's where the book came from. And that's exactly as you say, how that story evolved.
Yes, it was. And I really loved how the Emmys were in Lily's daughter's room because I can see your Emmys right there on the shelf. So that was just so much fun.
Well,
Um,
the thing that's interesting about it is that one of the things is that every one of those Emmys is good. We did a good story. That's what that
mm,
Emmy means. We changed laws, we changed lives, we changed the world for people. I've gotten millions of dollars in refunds and restitution for people with our stories. I've gotten homes out of foreclosure and laws changed. But every one of those Emmys also represents an enemy, a story that
mm,
I told that someone didn't want me to tell. And that's what I wanted to convey in Her Perfect Life, that Lily, for all the good she does, has enemies, and those people would rather it be that she doesn't exist, that would rather have her erased from the universe. And how does she deal with that when she's chosen the spotlight, but her 7-year-old daughter hasn't? And any
mm.
mom and any parent understands that feeling of the juggle between your profession that you love and your family who you would do anything to protect. And that's Lily's dilemma. How do you have a perfect life? And that's what I wanted to explore in this. I mean, it's a fast-paced psychological thriller, no
Oh,
question
is it
about it. But
ever?
under
It was
but
such a
underneath
great
that,
escape.
thank you. Well, that's the thing about writing in the pandemic, is that when I was writing Her Perfect Life, as the pandemic began, I can tell you I was in Palm Beach on March the 12th, 2020, and all it was just the beginning. Remember how
I
terrifying that
do.
was. And I
Yep.
remember being on the airplane, thank goodness going home, and I flipped open my laptop on the plane because that's where I love to write. I finished The First to Lie on JetBlue, I have to say. I'll never forget that. And I couldn't write. I just couldn't do it. I was 15,000 words into Her Perfect Life, and I thought, why am I doing this? I am writing a commercial, fun, page turning, miss your stop on the T thriller. But why am I writing entertainment? I should be
Mm.
home watching the news and, buying aluminum foil or whatever we would need.
Toilet paper.
Whatever, it just seemed so intense. And so there was this veneer of terror over everything. And, in about a week, I thought, I decided to be a storyteller with intent and with agency. And my goal is to take people away and entertain them and have them be distracted and immersed in another world. And if this isn't the time to do that, I don't know when is. And I realized, so with this blossoming understanding that it's always safe inside a book. It's always safe inside a book where you're solving someone else's problems and living
Yes.
someone else's life and being in another world. And I sort of went into writing again with this increased inspiration and enthusiasm. This is my life, is being a storyteller, is sharing stories with readers. And it gave me in a crazy way more passion than ever.
Mm. You can definitely tell. There's just something special about that.
Yeah.
So, with your Emmys representing bad guys, did you ever feel like did you ever feel threatened by any of those? Did any bounce back come back at you?
Oh my goodness, this is a constant. I mean, this is what we don't talk about. I mean, I'm not talking about being a foreign correspondent. My
Hmm.
colleagues overseas,
Right.
those people are heroes, and they face things that I will never face. And there have been some incredible tragedies focused on reporters, but and so that aside, that's a different kind of level of tragedy.
Yes.
I've not had tragedy, but I can say that as a reporter, I understand what it feels to be like in the spotlight. I remember, oh gosh, years ago, not that many, when I was anchoring the weekend news in Atlanta. It was midnight, and I was driving home after having anchored the news live. And I turned onto my street, drove down my street, Park Street in Atlanta, and I saw a lot of police cars and a lot of blue lights. And I thought, "Ooh, there's a crime scene. Maybe I've hit on a story." And as I got closer, I realized that the police cars and blue lights were at my house. They
Yeah.
were at the crime scene was my house. And I slammed into a parking place and leaped out of the car and ran to the police officer and said, "I'm Hank from," and he said, "Yeah, I know you are, from Channel 2." And I said, "Yeah, and that's my house." And he said, "Yeah, I know it is." And I said, "Well, what happened?" And he says, "There was a burglar in your house." And that's him. We caught him. That's him in the cruiser behind us. He said, "There was a burglar in your house, and he told us that he broke into your house because he knew you were live on TV. And as a result, he knew you were not home.
Oh,
He knew where I was, so he knew where I wasn't. And he felt free then to break into my house and take advantage of that." And wow, Kim, I was just so disturbed by that. I was
yeah.
so unsettled by that, because it was the first moment that I realized how vulnerable reporters are, how public our lives are, how, people who know when the news is over know when we're going to walk out the door. They know that if we're doing a live shot from XYZ intersection, that's where we physically are. And there's
Right.
this connection that we encourage. I want you to watch me on TV. I want you to tell me a story. I want you to feel that you can talk with me. But on the other hand, just because I'm in your living room every night doesn't mean I'm your friend. And that's the balance that Lily, is superly amplified, has to deal with. That everybody loves her, everybody loves her, everybody knows her, and everybody scrutinizes her every move. So I took my own personal experience and just turned up the volume quite a bit, to have Lily in this universe where one wrong move,
Right.
one wrong expression, one wrong tweet, one wrong word will just ruin her life and her daughter's life. And how does she deal with that?
Wow. And the selfie thing, like people coming up to take selfies. I was like, oh,
Well,
wow.
think about that, because again, I want you to know me. I want you to,
Yeah.
as a reporter and as a writer, I want you to feel comfortable with me. But when the wrong stranger comes up and drapes their arm across your shoulders and says, "Take a selfie," and you think, I don't think so. And then what if, but usually it's fine. The world is
Yeah.
usually fine. But what about the time it isn't? And that's why we write thrillers. In Her Perfect Life, what about the time it isn't? Or
Right.
there's a scene in Her Perfect Life that takes place in a grocery store, as a place that we've all been. And someone comes up to Lily and says, "Oh, aren't you Lily Atwood? And this is your darling daughter." And Lily's fine. And then the woman says, "Can I take your picture?" And Lily says, Sure, you can take mine, but not really Rowan, my daughter, not really Rowan's picture. And instantly the woman says, "Oh, you television people, you think you're better than all of us. I'm never going to watch you again."
Yeah.
That kind of transaction, that kind of career harming transaction and sort of psyche harming transaction is what people generally don't see, and what I was trying to sort of let you in on, sort of the
Yeah.
inside scoop in her perfect life.
Boy, did you ever? I could so picture you, especially like right at the beginning. I'm like, yep, Hank is perfect. Yep. Even when she says, I'm signing so many books, I'm going to look mussed up. You never look mussed. But then
But
all
we
of a sudden it got a little, it got a little different. And I was like, oh, okay, that doesn't seem like Hank.
Right, and you see, my books aren't me made into fiction. That I don't, but they're not my stories. They're made into fiction. But what they are, I've wired myself with hidden cameras and confronted corrupt politicians and chased down criminals and gone undercover and in disguise and had people confess to murder. And I've been in prisons and underneath courtrooms and in the back alleys of Logan Airport. And so it would be silly not to take all those experiences and allow people into those by way of the novels, by way of The First to Lie, and by way of Her Perfect Life. As a reporter, think about it. I can never make a mistake. I can never call someone the wrong name. I can never use the wrong word. I can never miscalculate. I can never get a fact wrong. I can never misunderstand a statistic. I can never be 1 second late. So, and I
Right.
have to, and I have to look camera ready all the time. All reporters do. So that kind of stress and pressure also is something that I can reveal in the book. And also, as a reporter, in a real life reporter, I can never tell viewers that I feel afraid. That is an
Mm.
emotion that cannot come out.
Oh,
And so that's another thing that I deal with, with with Ellie
mhm.
in The First to Lie, and with Nora in Her Perfect Life. Very different people, very different
So
kinds of
different.
reporters, very different kinds of motivations. But that's the world that I know, and that's the world that I can let you in on.
Yes. You let us in quite a bit more, I think, with Lily than Ellie. But I liked Ellie. Ellie is a great character, and how dedicated they all are towards the story that they're all working on.
Well, the
Um,
story becomes this overwhelming, all encompassing, intense goal. To get a good story is paramount. That's what you want. That's what you live for
right.
as a reporter, to get a good story. I mean, you're balancing, and that's what I tried to look at in The First to Lie so much. You all were reading The First to Lie. What I tried to look at in The First to Lie so much was to let you in on what a good reporter, how difficult it is for a good reporter to put a complicated story on the air, the morals and the ethics and the legal elements of it and the facts, and how long it takes to research, and the problem with, they call it confirmation bias, that if you're
Mm,
looking for something, that's what you'll find. And not notice everything else that you don't think will help your story, and how dangerous that is. First, do no harm
mhm,
also is so important to a reporter, is something that I report going to hurt more people than it will help. And that really matters. How much is
right.
raw information worth? And when I do a television story, or when Ellie does a television story in The First to Lie, you see how long it takes them to do a story versus what actually gets on the air. So I may
Right.
work for months and months and months and months on a story, and the story that gets on the air is 4 minutes long. How does a reporter like Ellie decide what goes in that story and what stays at what's left out of that story? All that balance of law and journalism and truth and justice. That's what I write about,
Right.
and that's what I want to let you all in on.
Well, and when you say first do no harm, like Ellie is going to a grieving husband's house, you know, talking about his wife who has died in this car accident. I hope that's
Yep, yep. Not a spoiler.
I hope it's not a spoiler, but I think because we're a book group, everyone should have read it. I hopefully. Um, but just that experience, like, I couldn't imagine. You go as a reporter, you're going to someone's house in the middle of their, you know, hardest
It's
time
crushing.
and
It is a
asking
crushing
them
thing.
questions.
And I hope you all deeply understand this is for a good reporter. I mean, I've been a reporter, as you said, for 4 decades. It's this is a crushing personal human moment. And the idea that, and as Ellie knows in this situation, what she finds out may help other people. It may honestly actually help other people. And do you take that step? And that's what I can let you, and I love that you said that, Kim, and pick that scene, because that's what I can let you in on this story. You don't see that on TV. You
Mm-mm,
just see the result. You don't
right,
see the agonizing process and the emotional process that goes into that juggle and into that balance,
right,
and how devastating it can be, how destructive it can be.
right. Now, so can you tell us a little bit about the origin of each book? Like, how you got the idea to start
Well,
each or
that's so great because, yes, it's so true that when you have a good idea, just like when you have a good idea for a news story, and there's
Mhm,
this thing that reporters say to each other, like, oh, that was a heck of a story, great story. And that's the highest accolade that you can get. And sort of in working on my novels, I have that same little, frizzle of emotion when I think of, ooh, that could be a good story. In The First to Lie, really came out again, it's not a story that I did, but the essence of it came from a story that I did. My producer and I were trying to find out the legal history of doctors and realized that the way the system in Massachusetts was set up at the time, it was very difficult to find out whether doctors had a series of huge malpractice case losses. Malpractice is part of the deal of being a
right,
doctor. It's always going to happen, and that's not what I was talking about. But if there's a doctor that you want to go to who has a history of huge and destructive malpractice settlements, you should be able to know that. We felt you should be able to know that and then make your own decision about whether to go
right.
to that particular doctor. So we went to the Board of Registration in Medicine. I'll tell this quickly. We went to the Board of Registration in Medicine and said, if a potential patient wants to know some legal information about a doctor, is there a way to find that out? And we were told that the answer was A, you'd have to go to each individual courthouse and each individual county and look up each individual's doctor's name and then deal with non-disclosure and sealed cases and those kinds of things. She said, but the best way to find out your doctor's legal history is to ask them. And if you ask them whether they've had any malpractice case losses, they will tell you. And I have to tell you, and forgive me, but I said, no, they
They're
won't.
not. No.
No, they won't. And she said, well, they're supposed to. So I said, okay, fair. So my producer at the time was a man named Chris, and he and I dressed up as a couple who were trying to get pregnant, a married couple who were trying to get pregnant. And I put my hair on top of my head, no makeup, big glasses. I put on 3 sweatshirts so that my whole body type would look different. And over my third sweatshirt, I put a work shirt. And in the buttonhole of that work shirt was what looked like a button, but it was really a camera lens. And
Wow.
snaking down behind that lens and through a hole in my sweatshirts and down inside my sweatshirts and out the back and into a fanny pack that I was so glamorously carrying, into a fanny pack which carried a hidden camera. And we went to various doctors' offices, posing as potential patients, and in every case we said, I said at the end, just checking and just so I know, have you had any malpractice losses or a series of malpractice losses? And we had researched these doctors and we knew they did. We knew they did. We only went to ones that did. And every single one of them lied. Every single one of them lied. They lied
Wow.
because they wanted us to be patients. They lied because they wanted
Right.
us to be on their patient roster. And as a result of that story, the rules were changed in Massachusetts to make that information much easier for potential patients to find.
Yeah.
But the point of this And I know you were wondering. The point is, those doctors lied to me. They lied
Mm.
to me to get what they wanted, to get me to be a patient, to make me not ask any more questions. And that's bad. But
Yeah.
I was lying too, right? I was lying
Yeah.
too. I didn't say, I'm Hank Phillippi Ryan from
Ah,
Channel 7, and I'm here to find out the real deal on whether you'll tell me the truth about this thing. I
yeah.
was lying too. And that was okay, right? I
Hmm.
felt that was okay because that served the greater good.
Right.
Is that right? Am I right? I don't know. I don't know. And I started thinking about lying and how we all lie all the time in various levels of uh, deception
Hmm.
and misleading. We do it all the time. You and I speak differently now than when we were strangers. We talk to our husbands differently than we talk to our bosses. We talk to strangers differently than we talk to pals. All those kinds of deceptions and pretenses. And we also do it to get what we want. We do
Hmm.
it to present ourselves in the way that we think often, not, often, that someone else will like or admire or approve of. So, something that, our boss, we want our boss to like us. And I started thinking about pretense and facades and lying and how far someone would go to get what they want. And I thought about the beginning of the book. I thought, what if someone went so far undercover that they forgot who they really were? So it
Wow.
didn't turn out to be that book, as you know,
Mm.
because you've all read it. It didn't turn out to be that book, but that was the domino that toppled the rest of the domino. How far if you could be someone else to
Mm.
get what you want, would you do that? Just like I was someone else in the doctor's office. I thought about that kind of concept in a book, and that became The First to Lie. The title is so interesting. The title of The First to Lie came from my book, The Murder List, actually,
Ah,
when when the main character of The Murder List, which won the Anthony for Best Novel of the Year, I must say,
yeah.
someone in The Murder List says, a police officer says to the reporter, well, the first to talk is the first to walk, meaning the first to rat out
Ah,
your colleague is the
right.
first to get a lighter sentence. And she says, yes, I know that, but what about the first to lie? And I thought, oh,
Ooh,
yeah, what about the first to lie? So I challenge you, if you've read The First to Lie, to figure out who really was the
I
first
got
to
the
lie.
paperback.
Oh, I love
Yes.
that. And how
Yeah, me
many
too.
how many characters lie along the way to get
It's
what?
hard to figure out.
Mhm.
Like I was definitely trying to figure it out.
Good, 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 good.
And as you talk about your producer, that was the other thing in going back to Her Perfect Life was the relationship between Lily and her producer. Like you're the on-air personality. You don't really realize what the producer does and the role in a reporter's life, dressing up and posing. So that was very well done, Hank. I really enjoyed that part of it.
I mean, that's something that we don't hear about, right? Unless you're in
Right.
television, this complementary, symbiotic relationship that a reporter has with a producer, an investigative reporter like I am with a producer, because we work arm in arm, hand in hand, brain in brain, but we are assigned to be together. We did not choose to be together.
Okay.
So that, the relationship of a really good producer is a reporter who doesn't want to be on TV.
Mm.
But a really good producer if they're a producer who really does want to be on TV. I mean, I think I say in The First to Lie something like, approval is such a sister to envy.
Ooh, so
Congratulations
good.
is such a sister to envy. And at some point you say, oh, great job. And then at some point the producer says, oh, yeah, I did part of the work. And then it
Mm-hmm.
goes to, why don't I ever get any credit? And then it goes to, I'm going to take the credit. And you see how that relationship can sour if the wrong people are dealing with it. So that's another thing. I mean, in Her Perfect Life, Greer never does anything wrong. She's only doing her job. And it's interesting to see how what she feels that job is.
Right. Oh, it's just
Or
fascinating.
in the first to lie, you see Meg, the producer,
Right.
and she has an agenda as well. So it's a really tenuous conflict possible relationship, reporter and producer. And I loved revealing that in two different ways in two different books.
Yes, it was very good. So now we'll get to some of the audience questions. So
Oh
we
yeah.
have some pre-submitted questions. This one's from Connie. She says, as a journalist, you obviously, presumably, write nonfiction. Which do you prefer, fiction or nonfiction, and which is harder for you?
Oh, such a good question. It's interesting because, and I was just looking at some of the Q&A, and hello everybody from all over
Yes,
Massachusetts.
all over.
And I hope you'll save this for me, Kim, because I really want to see these names. Um, Here's the thing that's so cool about writing nonfiction and writing crime fiction. As a reporter, I write only the facts, only the dialogue that I hear, right? Only the settings that I actually see, only the truth that I actually dig up.
Mhm.
And in crime fiction, I'm making stuff up. I'm just making it up. And that was one of the challenges for me as I started writing, was whether I could make stuff up. After it was 30 years at that time, after 30 years of writing only the facts, would my imagination allow me just to create a whole new world out of my own imagination? And that was very exciting. But structurally, and sort of psychologically and technically, writing crime fiction and writing investigative reporting is very similar, because they each have a character who you care about, a problem that needs to be solved, an important problem that needs to be solved. You want the good guys to win and the bad guys to get what's coming to them, right? And in the end, you want some justice and you want to change the world a little bit. So whether it's crime fiction or whether it's investigative reporting, that rhythm, that metabolism, those goals are exactly the same. So I love both of them. I mean, I am still on the air on Channel 7. I still love doing stories for television. It's all about being a storyteller and just
Right.
learning the very short, super researched but very short presentation of generally of being an investigative reporter, and the year long working on a novel, which then comes out to be something that you can hold in your hand and read over and over and underline and care about and get to know the people I made up, which is so crazy. Ellie and Nora and Brooke and Lacey. You know those
You
people
do know those
in the
people.
First to Lie, and you care about them. And it's just such a wonder to have made those up. But it's also a wonder to have changed people's real lives in investigative reporting. So the bottom line is that it's all about all about storytelling, and wherever
Yes.
there's a good story, that's what I want to tell.
Yes, and that answers Jean Arnold's question because she said, what similar skills are used in fiction
Ah.
writing? And that is so, that's just perfect.
There's
So,
no, Gene, there's no better uh, uh, experience for crime fiction writing than having been an investigative reporter. I can't believe how
right,
lucky I am to have done both things. Absolutely similar.
right. So Susan has a question. Susan Johansson, other than from actual on the job experiences, how else do you continue to find your storylines?
Oh gosh, Sue Grafton used to call that the magic.
Oh, I loved her.
I know, just the magic. It's just that somehow in your imagination, you hear a phrase, or you see someone say something, or you just, from wherever ideas come from, the universe just says, how about this? So it's just like the world has little light bulbs all over everything. Like everything is possibly a story. You could make up a story about anything. So what I do is this sounds so silly, and forgive me, but I know that a story will present itself to me, an idea will present itself to me, and my writer brain says, yes, I am taking that one. Thank you, universe.
Well,
So, but you have to remember that for all these years, I started in politics and then in radio and then at Rolling Stone magazine and then as a television reporter starting in 1976. All those experiences are all in there somewhere. Some of them are easier to retrieve than others. So sometimes puzzle pieces, it's like a Rubik's cube. You go and the things in your life click together in a different way, and you think, oh, that, yeah, that. Someone will ask me this, I know, but I don't use an outline. So I have no idea what's coming next in the novel until I write the next paragraph and the next scene and the
Wow.
next chapter. So I don't know. And that's what gets me to the computer every day, is that I wonder what's going to happen next. And when people say, when people say, wow, the end of Her Perfect Life or the twist in Her Perfect Life, you really surprised me. I say, yeah, wasn't that a surprise? Because I surprise myself every time.
Well, and don't you find that you pay attention in a different way, like as a reporter, because you find artists, if you're walking around, if you're taking a walk with an artist, like they notice different things. And so I'm sure as a reporter, you must pay attention to, and as a storyteller, pay attention to things in a different way.
I think that is so wise and so brilliant of you. And one of the things that's fun about writing a novel is that when I'm writing a character, if I'm writing Brooke or Lacey or Nora or Ellie or Lily or Greer or even little Rowan, seven-year old Rowan, I
Mhm.
put myself in those people's brains and
Mm,
I try to see the world the way they would see it, not the way I would see it. Would they call it, would they call it a white dress, or would they call it a ankle length tulle Lily Pulitzer strapless, summer gown? I mean,
right.
there are different ways that we all look at the world, and I think an artist sees light and color and connection and context. A writer hears words and sees conflict and watches how people's body language works and thinks about motivation. I think motivation is so
Right.
key. I ask myself every day, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Right? And that's what I
Yes.
try to put in my books, and that's what I try to convey in my investigative stories as well.
Okay, so I really like this question. This is from Robin Perlow. Was the car accident in First to Lie an accident, or was she intentionally pushed off the road?
Well, what do you think? What do you think? I don't want to say, because if someone hasn't read the book,
Mm,
I don't really want to give you all my theories about what might have happened
because there
there.
was some interference, some.
Yeah, so you email me at hryan@whdh.com,
Okay.
HRYAN at WHDH.com, and
Okay.
we will talk about that because I'd like to know what you think as well and whether how you felt about that changed as the book progressed.
Yes. Okay. And Imelda has a question. What comes first, the storyline or the characters?
Oh, ooh, what a good question. It's if I could say, Imelda, it's the same, because the character has the story. The character is the one that's driving the story. The character's desires and motivations and past life and experiences and what they want. That's what drives the story. So you sort of can't have one without the other. And I know as I'm writing, as the character changes, his or her story changes as well. So what really comes first, I'm kind of a plot person when it
Mm,
comes to the dominoes falling. I have an idea for as I said, a story that I didn't really use, but what if a person went so far undercover that they forgot who they were? That's the beginning. And then the story sort of spools out from that. And I also, what I try to do in choosing character and plot, putting that together is when somebody wants something, that means somebody else either wants that too or doesn't want them to get it. So when I think of conflict as my beginning, and then I set up this conflict. And if there's any DNA of a Hank novel, it's a cat and mouse game. But which character is the cat and which character is the mouse? And you will see that throughout my novels. And as I'm writing the books, I don't even know. I don't even know.
wow. Wow. I do love the cat in Her Perfect Life. No, in First to Lie, the cat, Ellie's cat. Oh my
Oh,
gosh, I love that cat.
is it Dickens? Is that who that is?
So, okay, so Marlene pre-submitted a question and now she also submitted it in the Q&A. So thank you, Marlene, because I really like your question, but now I have to find it. Um, she would like to know, is there another series possible in your future writing projects?
Um, Well, there is if you've read the Jane Ryland series that
Yes,
begins
that's what
with
she's asking about.
okay, if you've read the Jane Ryland series, and thank you, which begins with The Other Woman, which won the Mary Higgins Clark Award and goes through 5 books, um, there is another Jane Ryland story under contract.
Oh, good.
I have signed on the dotted line to write more
Excellent.
Jane Ryland books, and I love that you asked me that. I love that you care about that. It really means a lot to me. Thank you, and
Yes.
I
Oh, I
love.
found her question here in the Q&A. It's hard to find the question sometimes. Yes. So or perhaps going back to tell us how Jane Ryland is doing. So
Well, Jane
excellent.
Ryland is just on vacation a little bit right now. I can assure
She's,
you that she's fine and happy and looking for her next great story and trying to decide what to do with her clandestine relationship with Jake Brogan, the coolest police detective in Boston. So we will go back and find that out.
wow. So
And,
I wonder, will she be in lockdown?
you know, will Jane Ryland be in lockdown? Oh,
Yeah. Or COVID? Hmm.
this is a big topic, isn't it? And I'd love to
Yeah.
know again. Find me on my website, hangphillippyryan.com, and click on contact because that comes
Okay.
right to me. And I'd love
Excellent.
to hear what you think about COVID in books. I have to tell you this sort of inside scoop about her perfect life. I was going to hold it up again, then I thought no. Then I thought yeah,
Yes.
I'm going to hold it up again.
No, here, I'll hold up
Inside
mine
scoop
too.
on her perfect life, which is just out for 2 weeks so far. Had some references to COVID in it when it started. They
Mm,
references just sort of essentially that it was over. That someone
okay.
said, "So nice to see the food trucks on in Copley Place again."
Right.
And when someone else said something about that she didn't want to eat the French fry that had fallen onto her fast food table, she knew it was fine, but she had sort of learned not to do that. And my editor said, "Please don't put those in. Please don't
Oh.
put those in." And okay,
Mm,
as we talked earlier, I think, and I think this is so relevant, is it takes you into a certain world where there
yes.
is the pandemic,
Right.
and we maybe we don't want to be in that world. I mean, I know so many people who've watched
Yeah.
Contagion a million times and are immersed in some of the wonderful plague books and pandemic books that are out now. And yes, if you choose that, if that's the world you want, and some of them are incredibly good, then that's great. But I think that my books will not have that. Will
Yes.
not.
Now, Louise Penny, in her newest Gamache book, it was passed. And she was really good with the way she, had set it up, that with how things were like a year past. So that was an
Well,
interesting
Louise
way.
Penny is always fantastic. She is one of my
Yes.
complete. Louise and I won our first Agathas together. She won Best Novel and I won Best First Novel, and we have so many pictures of us grinning ear to ear together. So she is such a rock star.
So I would like to have Louise Penny and you in conversation, smiling on the stage at an unlikely story.
Anytime. How about
There's
like
my wish. Call her up,
I'm
Hank.
looking at my watch. I'm thinking, how about tomorrow? How about tomorrow?
Call
We'll
her
be
up.
there.
So Seidel wants to know, now that you're a successful author, are you still working as an investigative reporter or broadcaster? And I know you said you did. So what are you up to on TV lately?
Uh, thank you for saying I'm a successful author. This is something that I
Yes.
live to hear. Thank you. It's interesting as a writer how I always feel that I'm just climbing, climbing, climbing. I'm trying to get better and better and better and have each book be better than the last. And so to have someone say the word successful, I think, well, thank you. That's so nice of you.
Yes.
Yes, I'm still on the air at Channel 7 in Boston. I still do investigative stories, not as many
Mm,
as I have done in the past, frankly, because it's just us. I can tell you, I've sort of declared victory in television after 43 years. I still love it. It's irresistible. I can't not be a journalist. I'm completely a journalist. But right now, my new book is due in a week.
oh
And
gosh.
I know.
Wow.
Pretty much, I'm sitting here at this computer, in this very space, in this very chair, in this very room, crossing fingers that I can make my deadline. So I'm a little bit
Yes.
focused on that now.
One more thing that
It is a fantastic continuing growing experience.
excellent. And that is another thing in common with writing books and reporters. You both have deadlines.
Oh yes, exactly. I just want to say hi, Beverly and Lorna and Claudia and
Yes,
Kathy and Marlene. So nice to see you. I
I
see Karen
know.
and Jane and Patricia and
And
Megan.
Elaine is
How
from the
are you?
Berkshires.
So nice to see you. And Jean Bracken is here. So nice. And Elaine from the beautiful Berkshires. This is so. It
Yes,
is.
this is so much fun. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for
such a
this,
joy
Hank.
to see you.
I have just had the best. Any time that I spend with you is just, I know it's going to be fun. Just you are so warm and kind and generous and and give us a great way to escape when we need to escape. There's no
Yeah,
better
I
way
mean,
than
you are the prime mover of It's Always Safe Inside a Book. You and everyone at Unlikely Story, you know your stuff. You're so kind and generous and knowledgeable and brave and wonderful and courageous. And Jeff is
aw,
just such a rock star to
he
let this
is.
all happen. And Boston.com book club. This is,
Yes.
one of those things that you put hashtag goals. I'm so thrilled to be with you all at the Boston.com
Oh gosh,
book
me
club. And
too. This
we'd
has been such an honor. And thank
love
you,
to keep in
Emily.
touch
And
with you all. That's the other thing. Please find me on Facebook. It's sadly on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Come to my website, hankphillippyryan.com, and click on contact. As I said,
yes.
it comes right to me.
And
And
you have the
Kim,
first chapter. What else? So tell us quickly so you are on Facebook too. You do
first chapter fun.
first chapter fun.
Every Tuesday and Thursday at 12:30 p.m.
Yes.
ET, Hannah Mary McKinnon, a wonderful Canadian thriller writer, and I share reading out loud live. What can go wrong? The first chapter of a wonderful new book, and it has been. We're on episode. I think today was no to, Thursday. I'm reading episode 199 of First Chapter Fun. So, and on
Wow.
Tuesday is episode 200, and we will be reading the first chapter of Lisa Unger's wonderful Last Girl Ghosted. So
Oh,
come
that
join
is so
us
good.
on First Chapter
Yes.
Fun on Facebook.
Excellent.
It's just like a little box of chocolates that you get to read, hear out loud, somebody tell you a story, the first chapter of a wonderful new book, and then you can go right to an unlikely story and order your copy.
Yes. Awesome. So thank you, Hank. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madison and Emily in the background for putting on this. It's very nice to just be able to enjoy the event and not have to worry about any of the details. So
Thank you so much, Kim, and everyone. And all of you who came. I am so grateful to the dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people
yes.
who came. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I hope you enjoyed The First to Lie. I hope you will look for Her Perfect Life, and please
Yes.
keep in touch.
Yes. I get them right here. Awesome.